Look, Charles, he doesn't talk a lot, but he's still undeniably one of the best side characters in Red Dead Redemption. But why? Let's find out. So Charles was born somewhere around 1850. His mom was from a tribe called the Lakota tribe. She taught him tradition, survival, and respect for nature. Meanwhile, his dad left him as soon as he was born. Why? Because Charles was too tough. This dude was probably born with a six-pack, and his dad was like, nope, not ready for that, and just left. So, it was just Charles and his mom. This gave him a deep understanding of survival, shaping him into a strong, resourceful man from a young age, always moving and never having a real home. But his mom, she's the real hero here. She taught Charles everything he knows, how to hunt, how to trek, and how to survive. She was like his survival coach. Thanks to her, Charles grew up strong and smart, but always on the move, never really fitting in anywhere. But then, his mom passed away. After his mom passed away, Charles spent years wandering, living off the land. This time alone was crucial for him. It taught him the skills that made him one of the best hunters and trackers in Red Dead Redemption 2. His time in the wilderness was a period of reflection and growth. He learned to live in harmony with nature, but bad things do come to an end. So Charles eventually crossed paths with Dutch van der Linde, or the correct pronunciation, Dutch van der Linde. At this point, Charles was just looking for a sense of belonging, having spent so much time on his own. But the gang's outlaw lifestyle wasn't exactly what Charles believed in, but Dutch's vision of freedom and equality for all outcasts resonated with Charles. So Charles did not join for the robberies or violence, but because he believed in Dutch's ideals of fighting for the underdogs and making a stand against corrupt systems. So let's fast forward a couple of weeks, and Charles quickly became the gang's go-to guy for tough jobs. Need someone to hunt down food? Charles could do it like it's nothing. Charles didn't start fights, but he sure as hell finished them. His philosophy on violence was unique among the outlaws. He saw violence as a last resort. Charles became close with several members. His relationship with Arthur Morgan is one of mutual respect. Arthur sees Charles as one of the most honorable members of the gang, and Charles often acts as a moral compass for him. Both of them were men who had seen too much of the darker side of life, and both were looking for something more. Charles respected Arthur for his loyalty and toughness, while Arthur admired Charles' calm and steady nature. One of the most powerful parts of Charles' story is his connection to his Native American roots. Throughout Red Dead Redemption, Charles becomes heavily involved with the plight of the Wapiti, of the Wapiti Native American tribe. He feels a deep responsibility to protect his people, even if it means risking his life when the US government tries to push them off their land. Charles is one of the few in the gang who does not hesitate to help. His work with the Wapiti tribe alongside Arthur shows his strong moral compass and his willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. And then Arthur got sick, tuberculosis, a death sentence in the Old West. But when I said that all bad things come to an end, all good things come to an end too. So Dutch begins to lose his sight of his ideals and becomes more erratic. But Charles stays grounded. He sees the changes in Dutch and Micah and grows increasingly frustrated with the gang's direction. While others like Micah are quick to embrace Dutch's descent into madness, Charles tries to distance himself from the chaos. He remains one of the few gang members who stay true to his principles, often calling out Dutch's bad decisions or refusing to participate in senseless violence. And if it couldn't get any worse, Arthur Morgan passes away due to Micah's bitch. And I know he had tuberculosis, but I still blame Micah. Charles lost his friend, one of the few people who shared his sense of honor. After the gang falls apart, Charles is one of the few members to escape and build a new life. John Marston, who had also escaped the life of crime, trying to live a more peaceful life with Abigail and their son Jack, found Charles again. John reconnects with Charles in the town of Saint Denis. When he goes to Saint Denis, he finds Charles making a living by competing in prize fights, bare knuckle boxing matches in the city's underground. Charles had been surviving by relying on his physical powers, participating in fights for money, but Charles was clearly not happy with that life either. When John approaches him, Charles is more than willing to leave that behind and help John build his ranch, and the memory of Arthur likely played a big role in his decision to come back and stand by John's side once again. Together, they begin a new chapter and trying to leave the past behind them for good. There was one more thing that needed to be done. See, there was this whole argument in the gang about someone being a snitch, because every time they tried to rob a place, the police showed up early, or just right after them. But I'm not going to go very in depth into the story because I have another story coming which includes this, so yeah. But anyways, like I said I blamed Micah for Arthur's death. Now let's go back to when John asked Charles to help him build his farmhouse. So just when everything seems to be fine, John gets told that they know where Micah is, the guy who was responsible for Arthur's death. So Charles knew he had to help, so they set out to find Micah, with Charles using his tracking skills to guide them through the snowy mountains near Mount Hagen, I don't know. When they reached Micah's hideout, a fierce gunfight broke out. Charles took down several of Micah's men, but was injured during the battle. Despite the wound, he fought on, buying John and Sadie enough time to push forward. Unable to continue due to his injuries, Charles had to fall back, trusting that John and Sadie would finish what they had started. Though he wasn't there for the final showdown, Charles' help has been crucial in bringing Micah to justice and avenging Arthur. And of course, Charles did not die due to his injuries. Like the GOAT he is.